may get some hate for this, but I think that whale enthusiasts are some of the worst people on the internet. Don't worry, I will explain what I mean, likely in great detail, because this is a topic I've been digging into extensively since the summer. In particular, I want to bring it up because earlier this month, a humpback whale beached itself on the central Oregon coast, and thousands of people came together in an attempt to save it, but ultimately the whale had to be euthanized. I'll be referencing here a piece published November 26th by Oregon Public Broadcasting. The author is Courtney Sherwood, who I went to college with. Hi, Courtney. It's always going to be a heartbreaking loss when a whale beaches itself and a rescue attempt is unsuccessful. Sherwood goes on to describe how the whale's death brought together local residents, scientists, and tribal members who are not only trying to draw lessons, but also hope from this loss. The Oregon Marine Mammal Stranding Network brought together veterinary students, park staff, and tribal members to conduct a necropsy and then to disassemble the whale. Whales washing up on the coast is not as uncommon as you might think, but they typically are long deceased. Jim Rice of the Oregon Marine Mammal Stranding Network went on to describe how a freshly dead whale is a pretty rare opportunity. This is the first live humpback whale that has washed up on the Oregon coast in the last 2 decades. So it presented scientists with a chance to collect fresh tissue samples. They were also able to assess the animal's health status prior to its death. Fourth-year veterinary students at Oregon State University were invited to assist with a necropsy, right? Like, this is an experience that is very rare, would likely never come along again in their lifetimes. They had a chance to participate in the necropsy of a freshly deceased 28-foot-long, 10-ton whale. It's estimated that the whale was somewhere between 1 and 2 years old. Developmentally, for a whale, that's like a preschooler or a kindergartner. But it wasn't just the veterinary students who were there. They worked alongside members of the Siletz Confederated Tribes. As the veterinary students collected specimens and samples, tribal members collected artifacts and also prayed over the whale and the workers. It is such an honor and a blessing that we have been out here to bear witness, said Lisa Norton, a chief administrative officer with the Siletz Confederated Tribes, but also that we're able to bring these traditions back even as we're learning them. Sherwood says the tribes that make up the Siletz originated from a big stretch of the West Coast, from California up to Washington and inland along the water. Some tribal ancestors had connections to whales and the ocean, traditions that were severed when they were forcibly relocated by settlers. Working alongside scientists and collecting artifacts from the whale, that created an opportunity to reconnect with that severed past. We will use every piece of the whale that we take home with us, Norton said. Traditionally, the vertebrae from a large enough whale would be used as stools. Rib bones, smaller ones, would be used as clubs. The baleen would be used like regalia. Disassembling the whale, essentially butchering it, was a multi-generational effort for the Siletz. Norton's adult son helped to gather bones and blubber. Younger tribal members, including a few toddlers, watched the older generations. Now keep in mind, hundreds and hundreds of people tried to save this whale for many hours throughout low tide and a high tide, and when they realized it wasn't going to be possible and that the whale was suffering, they euthanized it. This was not a hunt, although I do want to talk about Indigenous people and their right to hunt whales in the next video. This was not letting the death of that whale be in vain, not wasting the resources, the educational opportunity, and the value to the tribe of that whale. So now we understand the context of this particular story around this beached humpback whale. And now I want to share some of the Twitter discourse around this story, and maybe that'll help explain the sentiment that I expressed at the beginning of this video. Let me preface this by saying that this sentiment is pretty typical of cetacean fan TikTok. Orca Oceanic Rescue, whoever they are, said, "This is just downright appalling how this poor whale went through sheer hell and was then murdered by these incompetent fools who didn't care enough to act in the earliest time frame to try and save this poor whale, dubbed Hope and also Pickles. Then this damn tribe comes along and butchers this poor whale to consume his meat. Absolutely disgusting." You see what I mean now? The absolute fucking worst. I mean, these are the same kind of people that will justify SeaWorld existing. God forbid Native people take advantage of a traditional resource after the animal has passed away. I know I've talked a fair amount about how veganism is dripping in white supremacy and can be an alt-right pipeline. There's an awful lot of overlap between vegan activists and cetacean stands. But this sentiment is disgusting and not uncommon at all. I'm not sure what this person thought they were doing with that post other than being insanely racist, oozing white supremacy, venting their dysregulated emotions all over the internet because they're upset that a whale died after hundreds of people spent hours and hours and hours unsuccessfully attempting to rescue it. And then scientists and native people decided that they were going to make the most out of a sad situation. I think it's extremely telling that this person did not mention that it was Oregon State's veterinary school that led the necropsy and the important scientific research that will come out of it. Instead, they said this damn tribe comes along and butchers this poor whale to consume his meat. That's not what happened. And that entire tweet is reprehensible on so many levels. Now, to be clear here, we used to live in Siletz. My husband worked for the Siletz Confederated Tribes. Even if I didn't take a personal level of offense at this kind of slander against people that I know, I would still be appalled by this tweet. It's appalling. Again, not uncommon, not an uncommon sentiment in citation stand, Twitter, social media discourse. The white supremacy, the racism, the anti-Indigenous bias is just like right out front. It is beyond unfortunate that this young whale beached himself and that efforts to rescue him proved unsuccessful, choosing to not have his death be in vain, but instead to use it as a chance to learn more about whales, as a chance to help Indigenous people connect with their culture, a culture that white people have deprived them of. That's a way to honor that whale, to honor that death, and to attempt in a very small way for us to make amends. For ways that white settlers and the United States government have taken traditional practices, foods, cultures, and lands from the Siletz Confederated people. I have so much more to say on this topic, so please come back for part 2.